Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and Canada is at war, my friends. We have technocrats coming out in big numbers to force people in their homes, as we've reported, as we see natural disaster after natural disaster blasting off worldwide. Madrid, Texas, New Mexico, again with new emergency orders in California over forest fires. Milwaukee has made a state of emergency. We saw one in New York recently. We're seeing them in British Columbia, in Manitoba, in Nova Scotia. And of course, this has led to insane provisions where men are getting fined 28,000, nearly $29,000 for going outside in the wilderness under forest fire restrictions. But these are climate lockdowns, my friends. And of course, do as we say, not as we do kind of mentality is coming out of this with, police are allowed to ride bikes around the wilderness looking for people who might be doing the dangerous activity of riding bikes so they could get arrested and forced into their home. And it's not just happening in Nova Scotia, my friends. We are seeing some strange stuff kick off in British Columbia as we see land grabs, which is a major part of this private property rights out the door, the World Economic Forum's agenda in play. We're going to go into this and more today, my friends, and give you some updates on what's happening in Canada and how it affects everyone else worldwide. But before we do, I urge people to check those links below and get prepared today for those food rations, digital IDs, and technocratic lockdowns in the future. Please be serious about this and please get prepared. I urge people to go to heavensharvest.com for long-term storable foods that are non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, books on how to get started. Use code WHAM, WAM, and you'll get 5% off as well as free shipping in the United States. You might be able to get shipments out in Canada. It's hard because the government's shut down people's ability to prepare, which is all the more reason why people need to get out there and get prepared today. Also, check out whambeef.com for 10 plus year shelf life, freeze-dried steak, 12 servings per bag. There's also freeze-dried chicken and ground beef as well. Use code WHAMBEEF, WAMBEEF, all one word, and you will get 20% off on your order. So make sure to check those links in the description. Get prepared, stock up. This is about fighting back against what is to come and not being left in the dust. My friends, it's never been more important. And it's not like I'm making money off of this. I make basically nothing. It's all about getting those solutions out to people and people taking it seriously. So let's get into this. So we have these natural disasters happening everywhere. We can't forget also one of the largest earthquakes in history happening outside of Russia recently and leading to tsunami warnings. Emergency orders are how they force people into the technocratic rule. Whether that be crime and federalizing police in DC, whether that be through World War III kind of scenarios, whether that be through fires, earthquakes, through we've seen hurricanes be used for this purpose as well. Obviously, across the board, pandemics, whatever it might be, there are initiatives that can be taken in order to force people inside their home, force people onto rations. And we saw this, of course, we've reported on this back in 2021. Saskatchewan updated the Emergency Planning Act sections 18 and 18.1 in Canada, which allows them to force you into your home. It allows them to take your home, use it as offices. Sounds crazy, but it's true. Under emergency orders, it allows them to kill your livestock or take your livestock and feed themselves. It allows them to force you into jail. It allows them to take away your kids. It allows them to do whatever they want with you, including destroying your property and destroying you. What does that mean? That means killing you. So again, horrible initiatives that were put forward by the government. And why would they do that unless they are going to use it at some point? Well, now, of course, last September in 2024, the United Nations passed the United Nations Pact for the Future, which 193 countries signed on to, which allows them to shut down your bank account if you question them, allows them to force you into food rations, allows them to force you into a digital ID system with social credit. And if you're in Canada, if you're in the United States, if you're in the UK, if you're anywhere in Europe, you sign on to this. Well, you didn't, obviously. You were under the Gestapo that they call government, you were forced into it as a tax slave, as tax cattle. So this is something that they are obviously building on big time. And in Canada right now, we are seeing the effects of these restrictions. In fact, we saw Jeff Everly, who is a Canadian veteran, get fined nearly $29,000 for walking outside. We covered it in a recent video of ours up on Rumble and BitChute called Climate Lockdowns Get Crazy. I urge people to check it out. And of course, the irony of all of this, and yes, there's a lot of irony to a lot of this, is that there's another guy, a Canadian guy who's a volunteer firefighter who set 30 fires in a month. 30 fires in a month. It led to death. It led to a massive emergency order responses. He never got a fine. He got 18 months of probation, 200 hours of community service. Now, some people might say community service is a form of a fine. Of course, 200 hours of community service barely cracks anything close to a $29,000 fine for just walking outside, which in Jeff Everly's case, that's all he did. He walked outside. People said, oh, he provoked. If we're only using one Canadian as an example of provoking, then there's something very wrong with what's happening right now. If there's only one person provoking enough to do this, they say, oh, well, he's going out of his way to get these fines. All he did was walk in the woods. Okay, so they have a hiking ban. They have a riding a bicycle ban that you can't drive on country roads that might lead to your home, stranding some people. In fires, by the way, while they are basically setting the stage for bad actors to set fires for political reasons now, to instill these Canadian lockdowns. And they are lockdowns because they are the shift into 15-minute cities and keeping people in their neighborhood, keeping people not just in their neighborhood, but in their home. And also, this does not just apply to Crown land, as they call it, public lands, public parks, national parks. It also applies to private property. You have a bunch of trees on your property and you go walking in the trees, you could be fined up to nearly $29,000. And by the way, they're banning camping because of these fires, unless you go to a campground, a government one, and pay them. So apparently, fires don't start when you pay the government. This is very reminiscent to me of the World Trade Center in New York City. I've been there a few times, the Freedom Tower, so-called. And you go there and they have security there. And you have to pay a certain amount of money. But if you want to sidestep most security, you just pay more money. And if they say there are some terrorists that might blow up the building or whatever, we have to assume that they're going to go there and go, $40 more. Never mind. We're not gonna do our plan of blowing up this building or something. It's too much money to get around security. It's all theater. It's so blatantly absurd. But this is the world we live in. Now, these Canadian restrictions are so absurd, they deserve their own South Park episode. Jeff Everly posted this. Only the state can be trusted, never the citizens. As we see, Truro Police Service has increased foot patrols and bike patrols in our wooded and trail areas. Yes, they have people who look, by the way, like they're like 16, patrolling to make sure that you stay in your place and don't walk outside or ride your bike outside. And they're patrolling by riding bikes and walking in the woods. And of course, they also have a bunch of warnings out there telling people to snitch on their neighbors. If you see your neighbors walking outside, even on their own property, snitch on them. We have some cool people that are standing up. Not enough, but some. We have this guy who we mentioned in our previous video with his family walking in the woods. That is a great sign of disobedience. Jeff Everly says, I've said it before and I will say it again. New Brunswickers are based. Rise up, New Brunswick, before you know it. having a beautiful family freely breathing the air will be considered an act of terrorism. Now, of course, we see similar rules being pushed in New Brunswick as in Nova Scotia. We see them attempting certain rules in Newfoundland, and we see them calling for prison time, potentially as much as more than a year of prison time if caught breaking these bans. And this is happening at the same time as they're pushing restrictions in British Columbia. Emerald Lake, BC. You can canoe, but you cannot kayak because, you know, who knows what might happen. We might have we might cause an illness with whirling disease, they say. If people aren't aware, as I've reported previously, the World Economic Forum says on their website, on their page called My Carbon, that COVID was a litmus test in order to test the public for compliance to bring in 15-minute cities and climate restrictions. They say it on their own website. And they said that in 2022. I said that back in 2020. And I've shown in my past videos, I don't want to continue like boasting about it, but I have shown in my past videos examples from 2021, 2022 of me talking about this, as well as, you know, the fact that whenever I talked about climate issues, I talked about the technocratic approach to bring in restrictions and force people inside 10, 15 years ago. Nonetheless, they have acknowledged that this is exactly the case. They use this as a litmus test to bring in these climate lockdowns because, again, it's not just that. It's diseases in the food. It's, you know, the approach of destroying farms, where we saw the attack on farmers, for example, in the Netherlands, where it's the second top agricultural exporter country in the world, despite its size. And they wanted to get rid of 50% of farmers and pay them off to leave the farm and leave the land. We have Bill Gates buying up most of the farmland in the United States and not using it, and causing prices to go up on top of inflation, while also destroying the supply chain. As BlackRock is also personally buying up the supply chain right now and bringing in digital IDs. It is not a coincidence that all these countries in the world have digital IDs coming up, CBDCs coming out, and of course, these algorithmic social credit situations and 15-minute city, smart city neighborhoods everywhere, where we saw in Kelowna, British Columbia, after the fires, the rollout of their attempt for 15-minute cities. We see it in Winnipeg, Canada. We see it in the Pacific Palisades in California. We see it in North Carolina. We see it in Maui. This is not some conspiracy theory. This is something that we can see on the ground. I saw it personally in Oxford, UK in 2023 when I went there and reported for over a month on their rollout of 15-minute cities because they were one of the test grounds for that. So with BC bringing in this stuff, there's also major land grabs happening. So you have ban on kayaks, but you can canoe. Well, they want to tell you, you have no independence whatsoever. You must be a dependent slave. You must be demoralized. You must be weakened. You must be sad. You must be depressed. You must have no money. You must be desperate. That's what they want, because that's how they get more control, order out of chaos. As we see here, the case is so consequential. Could a BC First Nations land claim upend Canadian property rights? This is a crazy story. They're taking people's private property and handing it over to First Nations people in Canada, Native Americans. As someone that has got a lot of Native American blood in me, you'll never find me supporting government allocating someone's own property. And oh, well, what, they had the land way back then. Okay, well, okay, we don't live in that time. We don't live in that time. And by the way, are you going to use the same argument for Israel? Because I don't support them throwing Palestinians out of their homes and taking their homes as their own and killing children over that. So when is it okay? When is it not okay? Across the board, if someone's got a property, you cannot just go there and steal it from them. This guy at Blender News writes, in Canada, the land you own may not actually be yours. And the courts are making that clear. BC court grants Aboriginal title to 750 hectares in Richmond, urban land, farms, golf courses, even port lands. $100 billion in infrastructure could be on the table. There's an appeal going on to set this back, but this is precedent setting. After a trial that lasted 523 days, we have this decision that says that they're going to give people's private property to First Nations people. Land that, by the way, a lot of people lived on for many generations, farmland. And before you say, well, look what they did to Indigenous people for all those years, I agree. Horrible. You know, I'm a big fan of voluntarism and individualism, and something that Native Americans in the past had a lot to do with. But now, unfortunately, the Native Americans that are pointing out rightly the state has all this insane centralized control and will use people as fodder in their own disastrous policies, are now depending on that very state to give them back what they want. And by give them back, I mean give them back something that their ancestors had, but also the people that live on that land, their ancestors had it too, because they've been there for generations. You cannot take someone's land and give it to someone else. And that is a form of communism. But hey, if it supports us and if it benefits us, then we don't care about consistency, right? This is the way that people act here. And this is a part of the precedent setting of the shift in order to tell you, you have no property. You must depend on the system. You must get, you know, how you go to the grocery store to get food, you're dependent on that. Well, good luck, because in the future, there's not going to be enough food, and you're going to have to be dependent on the state giving you rations, rationing you electricity, rationing you water, based on your social credit score, based on your digital ID, based within the CBDC system in your 15-minute city, where you will own nothing and you will be happy? I don't think so. The basis of humanity itself is individualism, self-responsibility, freedom. Those things are synonymous. But today, we've fallen into disrepair, demoralized by these tricks of demagoguery by the state to trick us into thinking we need them to solve the problems that they created in the first place. And they will solve these problems for security and safety issues, whatever they might say. Security, safety, that's always that, going back thousands of years. Security, safety, security, safety. It's for your own good. The greater good of the greater number, the collectivist mantra. And people will go along with it because they'd rather do that than rile up the social order and not be viewed favorably by the blind masses. You know, what we're seeing in Canada is precedent setting for where you live to. They have these emergency order restrictions ready to go in place in the United States. They already have government-run grocery stores in New York and Chicago. They have food police telling you what you can and cannot eat, with restrictions on how much you can buy that they're trying to push forward in places like New York. In California, they're using eminent domain to take over all the land after the fires that were very mysterious, and a lot of people just stopped questioning it, just like they did with Australia, just like they did with Maui, and just like they already did with the flooding in Texas, and what we saw in North Carolina, and these strange hurricanes that hit Florida, and the strange hurricane that hit Acapulco and Puerto Vallarta, and these strange events we're watching across the board that we just forget about within a week. Like the 6th largest earthquake ever recorded on record that happened like a week and a half ago. And who's talking about it? Something's happening. Something's being manufactured. And the ultimate goal, I believe, is to remove your ability to take care of yourself and force you into a complete line of total dependence, of total slavery. I hope people understand this, and I hope people look at the solutions. You know, we have one post here by a guy on X called Toby Rogers. He says, "It's so weird that Canada went Nazi. They had everything: oil, lots of land, beer, maple syrup, and no viable foreign adversaries. Then one day they just started poisoning and killing their own people, and imposing as much misery as possible. Previous social science research on fascism cannot explain this. Well, as a Canadian, I can explain it. Demoralization, cuckery, and dependence for generations leads to a weak and easily controllable public. And whether that be the left or the right, I mean, it's a conservative that's pushing forward these policies in Nova Scotia. It matters not. And if people hadn't learned that from 2020, are they going to learn it this time? That's a good question. But what you guys all have to do is go out and be independent and be prepared. So I'm going to end this again by letting people know again, we have links in the description. Heavensharvest.com for long-term storable foods that are non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, books on how to get started. Use code WHAM, W-A-M, and you will get 5% off as well as free shipping in the United States. There's big issues shipping this into other countries because of those countries' rules, which again, it's nothing I can do about because I worked really hard to find alternatives for other countries and no one wants to be involved. But here are some options. You don't have to pay all at once, and they accept gold and silver as well. So check that out. Heavensharvest.com, code WHAM. Also, check out whambeef.com for 10 plus year shelf life, freeze-dried steak, 12 servings per bag. Again, there's freeze-dried chicken and ground beef as well. Use code WHAM Beef, WAMBEEF, all one word, and you'll get 20% off on your order. So highly recommend people get on this today. Very important going forward to be prepared for your family, for your health. Check it out. Outside of the CBDC system, we have solutions because they are going to, one of the main ways they're going to get you is through your bank account. I urge people to check out firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/ and buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium today. You can hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system. Schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzalez and a complimentary investors package. We do lots of videos with them. I'm about to do another one right away. We have our video on the US debt crisis as well as the bank surveillance video that we did recently. I urge people to go and check out that link. Let them know in the comments of the forum that you found them at World Alternative Media or WHAM, WAM. Also, make sure to check out vni.life/WHAM, WAM, for real options for health. Again, they have a bunch of super supplements over there. Amazing stuff. But I really urge people to go and check out Protovite. You could use code WHAM15, WAM15, all one word, to get 15% off on all these items. But Protovite is really interesting. 100 plus vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients, helps cellular health, immune function. You could subscribe and save even more money over at vni.life/WHAM. But look at this before and after. Like, this is the red blood cells losing their negative charge. It's damage in the blood. And by the way, in 5 minutes, this is a change. White blood cells are multiple times larger. Red blood cells are loose and free flowing. This is amazing. And this usually takes about a month to do. So, or multiple months in many cases. So go and check out that. That's Protovite, again, over at vni.life/WHAM. Highly recommended. We have a bunch of other health options in the description, but we cannot talk about it if we post this video on YouTube. So I urge people to check those links in the description. And of course, on Rumble and BitChute specifically, because we can't even put all the links on YouTube. Make sure to find ways that you can help support us below. We truly appreciate any help we can get. GoGetFunding.com, Patreon, Subscribestar. Anything helps, my friends. You guys keep us up and running, and we cannot survive without you. So thank you so much to those who've helped. We've lost 90% of money since January, and we were already bankrupt at the time. We are basically, I have $38 in my bank. You guys are the only thing keeping us up and running. So if you pledge $4.99 or more on Patreon, Subscribestar, or exit at World Alt Media, you will get exclusive content, including early access to videos. Also, we have a PayPal address, ancientwonderstelevision@gmail.com. And of course, we have a Bitcoin address that you can scan on the screen right here. You can find the text in the description for the address as well. And we have a CoinTree link in the description where you can donate in multiple different cryptocurrencies, including privacy coins. So thank you so much to those who've helped support us. We have a Teespring link with a bunch of merchandise. And as always, you can find us on Telegram, Band.video, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, and Brighteon at World Alternative Media. We're on Hive, Steemit, and Vigilante.tv at Josh Sigurdson, and on the Bad Guys TikTok and Instagram, World Alternative Media, Twitter and Getter at World Alt Media, and all the major podcast platforms, except for Spotify, where, of course, we are banned. Hit that like button, share on social media, hit the notification bell, and hit subscribe if you have not yet already. And as always, my friends, live freely, live by example. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.